I cut the top off. It is white inside, very nice. Now I'm gonna cut it in half because to roast it, like you could roast it in chunks, I just cut it in half. All right, it's cut in half. I am gonna scoop out the insides, and I do save the seeds because I will clean them, dry them, and roast them. Nothing better than roasted pumpkin seeds. And I know it doesn't look like a pumpkin on the inside, but it smells like a pumpkin. And then once I roast it, I'll taste test it to make sure it tastes good. And if it tastes good, I am going to make pumpkin donuts. All right, I got the seeds out, and now I'm scraping out the stringy guts with a big spoon. Now I'm gonna bake them upside down in the oven for 40 minutes at 375 degrees. Could take longer depending on the size of your pumpkin, or it could take less. It just depends like how soft you want the pumpkin. So I will check it like every 20 minutes. But in my experience, it takes me about 40 minutes to get these to the desired consistency that I want. Here are the pumpkin seeds that were in the pumpkin. As you can see, it's not tons, just like maybe a half a cup. But you know what? It's a good amount for a snack for me and my husband. So I'm just gonna let these dry and roast them tonight while we watch the hockey game. All right, this one I actually ended up baking for 50 minutes. It's still a little firm. I don't want it too soft. Let me flip this over real quick. All right, it's nice and tender. I'm gonna do a quick taste test just because not all pumpkins taste the same. I don't know why. Through experience, I've learned not all pumpkins taste the same. So you definitely want to taste your pumpkin before you puree it, but you definitely don't want to preserve something that you're not gonna like the taste of. 9 out of 10 pumpkins I love the taste of, but every once in a while I'll come across a pumpkin that just does not taste good. That's really good. So it's not sweet at all, which is good because I want to use this in donuts. There's a lot of sugar in my donut recipe, so I think this is going to be the perfect pumpkin for pumpkin donuts. Oh, a little hot. Oh, hot. Okay. I'm going to let it cool down, and then I'm going to peel off the outside skin. I'll show you. My recipe, it don't need to be hot. And it's easier, safer to puree when it's not hot. That way, if you accidentally get some on you, you're not like burning yourself. So anyway, I'm gonna flip this over so it cools down like that. It'll only take about like 20-30 minutes to cool down, and then this should be able to peel off. Easy peasy. See, it's already starting to peel off. And that's how I do my pumpkins. Some people like, you know, peel it like a potato beforehand, but I find this so much easier to peel after it's cooked. So yeah, you definitely want to peel off the skin. You are not pureeing the skin. The pumpkin has cooled down some. As you can see, I already started peeling the skin. It's pretty easy just to peel off. So I'm gonna peel this off and cut this into chunks and put into a bowl. All right, here is the cooked pumpkin. So I'm going to puree it. I could puree it in a blender. That works. I'm actually going to use my little hand blender to puree it. I've also just used a potato masher. Like if you cook it long enough and it's soft enough, you can just mash it like mashed potatoes, and that's very good enough for a puree for the pumpkin recipes. And if you want it super fine, like if you're making like a pumpkin souffle, then you can strain out. Once you make the puree, you can use a strainer to strain out, like if you missed any of the, sometimes pumpkin can be a little stringy. So if you missed any of that, you could always strain that out. I don't worry about it because I'm just using this for baked pumpkin donuts. So my recipe calls for a can of pumpkin puree. A typical can of pumpkin puree is 15 ounces. There are 8 fluid ounces in a cup, so it's a little less than 2 cups. I will measure it out in ounces, but if you don't have anything that measures out in ounces, just use a little less than 2 cups. Here is the white pumpkin puree. So I'm going to measure out my 15 ounces for today's recipe, and then the rest I'm going to put in freezer Ziploc baggies, 2 cups per bag, because most recipes call for 2 cups of pumpkin. And so I will also label it white pumpkin for the freezer because I've got other pumpkins and I know white pumpkin has a slightly different flavor than, say, like a pumpkin pie pumpkin. So that'll just remind me that it's not as sweet as a pumpkin pie pumpkin. And I have a cat trying to climb me. No climbing, no climbing. Okay? I'm trying to do a video here. Do you mind? I'm not a tree. So anyway, let me get my measurements out and I will freeze the rest. That pumpkin made 6 cups of pumpkin puree. 4 cups I'm going to freeze, and the 2 cups for my recipe, which is going to be baked pumpkin donuts. Here is the pumpkin donut batter. As you can see, after you add all the ingredients, it looks like pumpkin. It doesn't look as white anymore at all. So of course, because one of the main ingredients is pumpkin pie spice. And I got the recipe from foodnetwork.com. I will link it down below if you want to see the recipe for yourself. And I have a donut pan. This is a new one. I used to make baked donuts all the time. I don't know what happened to my original pan. So got this one. Hopefully it works just as well. It doesn't seem that deep, but we'll try it out. The recipe said to bake this for 15 minutes at 350 and to fill them almost to the top. I don't know, I kind of feel like it maybe be too full. We'll see, not for sure how much these donuts are gonna rise. 15 minutes. All right, this is after 15 minutes. They did not fluff out too much at all, which makes me happy. I used a toothpick test and nothing's sticking. So I hope they're done. Now I'm going to see if I can pop them out of this pan. Alright, they came out of the pan no problem. I don't know. They're done. Guess I don't want them too crunchy. I might do a couple more minutes next batch, see what happens. First thing is I'm going to do a taste test because there's a lot of batter and I don't want to bake a bunch of donuts if they don't taste good. So quick taste test. All right, it's piping hot. I'm too impatient to wait till it cools down. Are good. They're really good. So the directions did say, like, brush them with a little after they're cooled down a little bit because it recommends serving them warm. To brush it with a little butter and then sprinkle cinnamon sugar on top. I'll do that for some of them, but I think they're sweet enough on their own. You can also make like a cream cheese glaze. That would be really good on top of these two. And you can just eat them plain like I am. That's really good. So I'm gonna see how many donuts that batter makes. And this is just me and my husband. I'll leave like a dozen out for the week and then I will freeze the rest. This is the second batch of donuts and I just put the third batch in. It only was 5 more donuts, so altogether it made 17 donuts. I think this recipe is a really good recipe. I recommend it. I'll link it down below again, and I will definitely be using it again. I'm sorry if you can hear my husband in the background. He's chasing escaped kittens around the house.